So in yesterday's session, we looked at the different ways of interacting with work queue or accessing a work queue, reading from it, writing to it, and how to filter the data from the work queue and so forth, and a practical exercise on it. So today we'll be continuing with one of the most important part, that is error handling. So errors or exceptions in any RPA tool or even programming languages. So specifically for RPA tools, there are two types of exceptions that are categorized: business exceptions and system exceptions. Business exceptions are something that could be an error or an exception in the business logic or the business rule. For example, in yesterday's session, we looked at the work queue concept where we had the amount value blank. So that's a kind of a business exception because nothing can be done. You cannot retry it. If the amount is blank, it will be blank for every single time, no matter how much you retry. So it's a business rule that amount value should be present, and if it's not present, then it's a business exception. Another example would be, let's say you are automating a hospital management system and you want to automate all the records for adult patients, meaning whose age are greater than 18. But let's say some patient records have got age less than 18, so you would obviously skip them because you do not want to process them. That's again a business exception. Coming to system exceptions, as the name suggests, it is an exception related to any system. Perhaps a system is not responding, or a browser page is not launching, or Outlook is not opening, and so forth, or even an API is timed out. Let's say you have 30 seconds for an API call and it doesn't return the results within that time limit. So it could be a system exception. And unlike business exceptions, system exceptions can be retried just in case a web page is not opening. So you can try refreshing it or relaunching the browser or recall the API if it's timed out, or even relaunch the Outlook in this case. So a general pattern is to keep a retry limit to three. Up to three times you can try. That should be kept configurable. So that's about system exceptions. So let's take a look at how to handle these errors or exceptions. PAD gives us two types of error handlings. One is called action level error handling and another one is block level error handling. Let's check out both of them in action. So at first we'll take a look at action level error handling. So let's quickly build a small flow. Generally we use Excel most of the times. So I'll show that as an example. So let me give a dummy Excel file that we have from the work queue exercise. I remove the quotes. So we are launching the Excel now. Everything is good. Now after we open, we generally set an active Excel worksheet so that we read the data from the correct worksheet. Now let's intentionally give some dummy value for a sheet. This sheet does not exist in that file. So we are trying to fail this scenario intentionally. And finally, let's close the Excel. Or perhaps before even closing, we can read data from Excel. Read from Excel worksheet. Just a proper use case of reading it from Excel. So let's run this and see what we get. It launched the file. I could see it open. It's trying to set an active worksheet, whereas it throws an error saying can't find worksheet with the name dummy sheet. And that's the error we brought up intentionally, but this flow threw an error. This is not a smooth way of running of a flow. It should not throw an error, whereas it should be caught or captured and smoothly executed and continue towards the rest of the actions within the flow. There should be a smooth execution of the rest of the actions. So the first type of error handling is the action level error handling, meaning every action in pad has been given an on error button that you might have been seeing all throughout the course. So that's why it's called as an action level error handling. That is an error handling at an action level. When I click on this button, it gives me some options. So at the top, I have a retry policy drop down. From here, I can set the retry items that I was mentioning, generally not done for business exceptions. So along with the retry count, you can also give a time interval, meaning after how many seconds you want to try the next retry. So that is using the first option. Then you have the all errors button. So any error coming out of this action will be caught under the all errors section. So one option is throw error. If you do a throw error, it will directly throw error and stop the flow. And there is a new rule button set here. So what you can do is either you can set a variable, something like in this case, a variable called sheet exists, and you can make it false. You can make it maybe sheet exist is equal to 0, or if anything like that. You can set a variable of your choice depending on the flow that you want to develop, or you can call another subflow. These are the two options available in new rule. But when you do a throw error, it will throw the error irrespective of whether you have set the rule or not. So right now I will, let's say, take a dummy variable, sheet exists to false, and we are throwing the error. So there are two buttons, continue flow error and throw error. I'm showing you the first one. As soon as I set a new rule, this blue color gets highlighted over here, indicating that we have set some rule over here. If nothing is set, it will show an icon something like this. So let's check it out. What happens in this scenario? I'll close the Excel and run the flow. I'll try to increase the time quickness. I could see the Excel launching. And another point is this is the icon that shows up if that action has got an action level error handling. So can't find it through the same error, but whereas our sheet exists is false, and again it threw an error. So we just, if we wanted to intentionally stop it, we can stop it this way by initializing certain variables, or you can even call a subflow. As it said, you can send an email within that subflow, but this will throw an error, it will fail, and this is generally not used. So the other option I was saying is the run a subflow. Perhaps you could run a subflow and send an email through that subflow, but it will still throw an error. Now we will look at the continue flow run action option. So this time I will remove the condition for the variable. I'll do a continue flow run, and when I press this button, I get some options over here. Now, how do I want to continue the flow if this action throws an error? Do I want to go to the next action? In this case, if the sheet does not exist, there is no point in going ahead to the next action. The next action is going to read all the data from the Excel sheet after activating. So that won't work. Repeat the action. No matter if you repeat the same action, the sheet won't exist. So no point in repeating it. You could go to a label. If there are any labels set in your flow, you can directly jump to it. I have shown how labels work. So you can use that. We can quickly try this option. Let's do one thing. Let's even run a subflow and even use a label. So first I need to define them. That's why it's giving me an error. I'll clear this, and firstly I'll add a label. Now I know that if any error occurs from launch to Excel, I should make it jump to the label. I'll give it a name, label error handling, something like that. And what should happen inside this label is, let's Yeah, one thing is closing the Excel, but I'm trying to show some more features. So, okay, before that, let's also add our subflow. Send email. Now, we are not going to add any email module. We'll simply put a display message box. Sending email, or let's say email sent, with maybe it could be to the support person saying that your bot has been failed, for example. So email sent, I'll put a display message box, and let's do one thing. Let's close this automatically after 2 seconds so that it will come back to the main flow. And since we are adding an error handler to active sheet, this means that launch Excel has already initiated the Excel instance. So I could close the Excel as a best practice. I could use the same Excel instance variable. I could even print a display message box saying there is an error in the flow, or I'll show you one action. So this is to get any error details, get last error, very important. I'll first close the Excel and perhaps, so what this does is whatever error occurred previously, it captures into this variable, and I will now have it handy for logging it or for displaying it for any purpose. And I'll just show you what it retrieves. So last error, you can see it gives the action name, the error details, the location, what was the message, the subflow name, and so on. Let's give action name. So action name, let's give, just to help the support person to identify the error message. For now, it's fine with these two. And let's run our flow. Let's close the Excel that is already opened. You could even write a customized message saying, please add sheet name so and so. Obviously, it's going to show in this error that the dummy sheet does not exist. So let's run the flow. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not set the error handler here. We had kept it pending for adding the subflow and the label. So let me stop the flow. All right, we have the subflow for sending the email ready and the label ready, which will close the instance, get the error details and display it. Now let's go ahead and set the on action level error handling. So I click the on error button. This time continue flow run, and as mentioned earlier, these two actions won't be of any use. So let's go to the label. Now the label is automatically shown, and we'll also run a subflow which will send an email perhaps to a support person saying that there is a error in the flow. And you see a blue mark over here. Click on save, and you should also see a blue mark over here indicating that there is an action level error handler for this one. All right, it's time to run the flow and check how the execution goes. Keep a watch how from the line number 2 it will go to send email, close that message box, then jump to the label, close the Excel, and display the error details. Line number 1 is executed. There it is to the send email. I can see the message box in my taskbar. It was in the background. Now it jumped to the label. The display message box shown earlier was closed within 2 seconds, and the one with the error details, let me pull that up. Action name, set active Excel worksheet. Yes, error message, can't find worksheet within dummy sheet. Perfect. We have smoothly executed an erroneous situation without halting the flow in between, even intimating the right person or team with the error details. So this was about action level error handling, and something to show about this type of error handling. is the other option. So just like how all errors, if you want to capture any type of error, you should mark this one. Generally, this is what is used, but depending on the action that you have chosen, pad gives us certain specific errors here. For example, can't find worksheet. If that happens, you can set a same option, set rule, or fail to activate worksheet for some reason. Again, you can do that. But this will be restricted only to two types of errors. And one thing to note is these advanced level errors show up depending on the type of action selected. For example, if you would have used a launch edge browser action, this advanced section will have a totally different type of error handling. Clear with this point?
Yes. So the
Okay,
sequences, it will first call the subflow and then it will go to the label, right?
correct. The top part is, yeah, as we just now saw, it jumped to the subflow because you can, yeah, because you can even throw the error and keep the new rule for a subflow. So in that case also a subflow will run first and then directly throw the error. So same situation will happen for continue flow run. So yes, that sequence is right. That was about action level error handling. The second method is called as block level error handling. For that, there is an action inbuilt called as on block error. This should be begin at the block from where you think the error might occur. Block, I'll just give a name to it. As you can see, it has got the same options, but let's come to that in a minute. So the block starts at the very beginning and it adds a corresponding end to it. Now I know that till here is what I want my block to be. So any action that throws an error within this block will be handled by on block error action. So what I will do is this time let's give an intentional error to the launch Excel action itself. Instead of, we will keep this as it is. You can have both. So I'll simply give a name to this file which does not exist. But if this does not exist, obviously the Excel will not open, so close won't work over here. So you should carefully design your error handling. So what I'll do is I'll put this within the block and it should get the last error and display it to me. But I have some additional options for block level error handling. Retry policy is the same. Again, new rule is the same. Throw error is the same. In continue flow run, I have two additional options. Go to the beginning of the block or go to the end of the block. In this case, I have designed it in such a way that it should jump to the end of the block and continue with the rest of the actions. The first three operations are the same as earlier. So I go to the end of the block, click on save. So what will happen is, as soon as an error encounters on the first line, it will jump to the end of the block, get the last error and display the message. And this time also we will send an email with a new rule. Run subflow, send email, save. So I'm now ready to run the flow. So the first line, which means the launch Excel, that is the second line after the block, should have an error. It will go to line number 1, that is the start of the block, read what its error handling parameters are, then jump to line number 8. Yeah, there is a send email in between because we have set it that way. Email is sent, message box is closed automatically, get the last error, line number 9 and line number 10. I should get a message box in the background, and I do have. This time the message is different. The action is launch Excel. Error message is failed to open the Excel because it had an incorrect path, and it has correctly executed exactly as per the way I had configured. So I have shown you the two ways of error handling. Now how you design this is totally up to you, your innovativeness, your creativity, your analysis on the flow you are building, depending on the support team you have, what details do they want, how do you want to execute the flow. It all totally depends on you. I have shown you the complete features of how both the types of error handling works. So in block level error handling, there is one another option, which is the capture unexpected logic errors. If I cancel this and go to the action level error handler, it does not have that kind of a parameter. Yeah, in the advanced also it's not there. So in the block level, if I toggle this, it captures the logical errors. For example, something like division by 0. Now 1 divided by 0 is not possible, so anything divided by 0 is not possible. So that kind of errors is captured here. Another example is, let's say you have a list type of variable. There are 10 items in your list and you are trying to access the 11th item. So that is index out of bound type of error. So such type of errors are captured here. I hover my mouse over the eye information icon, and if you can read, expand the scope of error handling, also capturing the logical errors in the flow like division by 0 or trying to access an item from an out of bound position. So I'll quickly show you how this works. What we will do is, the first line of the statement itself, we will bring up this error. Now in pad, division by 0 is between 2% 1/0. This should throw that error. Now first what we will do is, we will remove that toggle and see how it behaves. I'll run the flow. So did you see it threw an error? Although we had a block, but the block was for something else. It did not, I did not give the parameter for capturing such type of error. So it simply throws an error. There is no point in throwing an error. We need a smooth execution and flow even if there are errors. So that's why I toggle this on. I click on save. Now I run the flow, and what should happen is, whatever is mentioned in the block, all those things should come into play. That should be executed. That is the sending of the email, jumping to the outside the block, and so on. Quickly went to send email, close the box after 2 seconds, jump to line number 10, show the message box. Clear with this? Okay. This was about getting the error details. So the get last error action is very important. Check out its different options by printing it into a display message box and see what all it shows. So I'll have this as a practical exercise for error handling. So if you might have already built the Contoso application along with the web application, that is the currency conversion exercise, add both action level as well as block level error handlers wherever applicable, wherever you think they are necessary. Edge opening, browser opening, anything related to window, if you think, try to add as much error handling as possible and make it a robust flow. That is your first exercise. Second is, again, add both action level and block level error handling to a series of actions and verify different options, which means there were different types of options, right? Setting a variable, calling a subflow, going to the next action, going to the end of block, repeating an action. Add different parameters and research and do an analysis like how it behaves, how the sequence behaves, where it jumps. So because error handling is a very integral part of our flow building, you need to know how the behavior of the flow is using these parameters and options. Clear with both the exercises? Great.
Done.
Moving on to logging. Now there is no use of error handling without a login, or just logging without error handling. So both go hand in hand. You need to have a logging mechanism also. So let's check that out. For that, let's take a simple flow. I'm sorry, subflow. Let's not mix it up with our bigger flow. So there is one action given by pad so far, native action related to logging. That's called log message. What it does is, you simply give the message, and whether it's an information, whether it's a warning, or whether it's an error is what you can give. Let's do something. Set a variable as num1, or I'm trying to think if should I do it as input output parameters so that we can run the flow. So what this action does is, logging message, it logs the error and you can view that error only on the cloud portal and when you run from the console, that is from here, not while debugging it from inside. So that's why I'm trying to show it to you from, I'll have to disable everything. I'll leave that as it is. So yeah, we are building a flow from scratch now. I want to take an input output variable so that it will be accessible from the console. So this is the variable name is, we want an external name, right? So number one, let's give a default, no, okay, we'll put it from the console. And number two, and what we will do here is, if now we'll capture the same division by error sort of a situation. If we are doing number one divided by number two, so if our for simplicity I'll name these as same number one and number two, and I'll put data type as number, again a data type as number, and now we will see the same names over here. So we are going to do number one divided by number two, and we are going to check whether number two is equal to 0 or not. If it is 0, let's log a message. If number one is equal to 0, then the else part, and here comes our log. So before even performing the division, we are going to check if the number 2 is 0 or not. Log a message. What should be message? The number 2 is 0, hence cannot perform a division. I am giving a customized error and I am even marking it as an error. I'll save it, and if it's not, then we will do one thing. Number 2 is not 0, and this time we will give an informational kind of message. And we can even set this inside. We'll try to evaluate the expression as result. Number 1 divided by number 2. There is only person sign starting and end. Number 2. So we have added both success scenario logging message as well as a error scenario logging message. So because we have taken input variables here, if I run it from the console, I will be able to, it will ask me for these parameters because I am running it from the console and because I have given it as input variables. Let me do a quick check if everything looks okay. Division by 0. Let's close it and run it from the main console. I click the play icon. Here it is. So initially I'll give positive number and keep number 2 as 0 itself. I'll click on OK. We haven't given any output variable or anything else, but I will be showing you. So it's running. That's what the message was there. Perhaps it finished also. Now why I wanted to show it to you this way is because, as I said, these type of log messages can only be seen through from the cloud portal, and that's where we are heading towards. Did you see it completed successfully, but there was an error inside it. It did not throw an error because our else part had the divide by 0. Our if part did not have. So the flow was success, but we are now seeing the logging part of it. So to do that, you click on more and try to find out desktop flow runs. There it is. You need to look for desktop flow runs. Desktop flow activity is already there. Desktop flow run. If it's not available, go to discover all. Scroll down and desktop flow runs is over here. I will pin it. Go to desktop flow runs. So a minute ago was the flow that we ran, mod 9 error handling. I can click inside it. The overall status is succeeded because it did not throw an error. We are just logging it. So that's why it's showing success. And this is where you need to troubleshoot the logs and see what happened with the flow. If there was a cloud flow that called this desktop flow, it would show up here. Which if you had a machine, another machine where this bot was running, it would show up the details over here. So local attended desktop, timing, duration, how much time it took, yeah, and the path that is this user requested, no machine queuing, execution of desktop flow. I can go into view details here also, but if you can see the actions that we had taken are showing up. Read it from bottom. The if was the first statement that succeeded. It took these many milliseconds, whereas the log message shows an error here. I will click on it. I can I can go further one level down. If I scroll to the right, I can see an error over here. Again, I can click here and see if there are any input details for that action. So for that action, I had given these input details. The number 2 is 0, hence cannot perform a division, and it was an error logging level type of login. So there you can see, and by looking here, the support person will find out the error and go into these parameters and see what they were. Now let's see what our if statement was. Any inputs? So that way no inputs, but out of the, yeah, our if did not have anything. I'll go a bit back. I think pretty much the logging level. The success scenario, we didn't run it. So let's do it here right itself in real time. This time we will give a positive scenario. I give a 20 divided by 10. Click OK. While it's running, let me go to the portal. I click on desktop flow runs over here on the left. And this was the earlier one. We should see one more. Let's enable auto refresh. I still did not see that stamp over here on the right hand side saying it has started. Yeah, this is disabled, means it's running. So it is running. There it is. I see another mod 9. Succeeded means it has completed. I go and check what parameters were there. This time, yeah, set variable if else. So let's go to the, did you see our info? That's the info part over here. And log message, what's the input details? I gave an informational message saying number 2 is not 0. It was an info level. I go back. I want to see, let's say, what parameters were, what was the set variable. See, if I want to see, so I think it's in the output because no, yeah, result. So 10 divided by, so 20 divided by 10 is giving the result as 2. So that's why it's showing us that way. So yeah, clear with both scenarios, successful and failure, how to log it using the
Yes.
one thing related to the same concept I'll show is now, even though it was a failure in the first situation when it was a divide by 0, it showed as flow ran successfully and it showed in green, whereas we can make it in red this way. And to do that, what you could do is, let me go to our flow. So to do that, you could stop the flow, and we have seen this action. You could, if you do a with error message, and here you could even take the details, you could capture the get last error, and with error message you could put that same error message over here. This is a simple flow, so we are doing it in a hard coded way. With error message number 2 is 0, hence cannot perform a division, but there should be an error handler that should jump over here. This is only, you can even do it this way. Instead of at the end, you can put it in the first if, so that if it is 0, it will log this message and stop the flow. But the point I'm trying to say is, because you gave a with error message here, it will show it to you in red over here as failed. That is the point I'm trying to say. So designing part, building of flow is absolutely dependent on the developer. So that is the use of stop flow. All right. So the second part of error handling is, I'm sorry, logging is the customized logging. So this is simply making use of a text file and printing all these in a text file. That is the date time stamp. This is simply writing using the text file action that we have seen. Writing the date time stamp, the name of the subflow you will get from the last error action, get last error action. From the action name you will also get error line number, you will get error description, message, additional info, anything else you want to print it for the support person to make them comfortable. So this is simply making use of a text file approach, that is customized logging. Clear with the second approach? Okay.
Yes.
Now monitoring part, we already saw desktop flow runs in conjunction with the logging. So desktop activity is another tab over there. It is simply both these tabs are related to each other, meaning you can go from one tab to another. So you can see the last runs over here. You can filter it out to last 7 days. It gives different types of graphs and charts over here. When there are many flow, if you run it from the cloud flow or run it from the console, can you see one chart has been generated based on the past runs? Yeah, the error rate, average run duration, what is the trend? These were the flows. That top desktop flow run status. If there are many successful or many failed attempts, it will show over here. And then the last desktop flow runs, the one that we just did, run by machine group, by user, all these types. You can go to different tabs and explore this desktop flow activity. Yeah, again, what type of error, the top errors. So a support person can generate a chart out of it. Even you can export this in Power BI and share it with someone, to your management, to the customer. Then the ones related to machines. Yeah, this requires exploration, and I have given a link in the links document also, where you can explore all these tabs from this link and see how the bots are monitored. Good with monitoring section? Any particular question about monitoring?
When we share the flow with someone else, so that flow also we can monitor,
When
right?
you share a flow with someone else, yeah, if you are having a flow, that means you will be able to monitor it. I have the sharing of flow section shortly.
Okay.
I will show it how to share a flow, but related to monitoring, yes, because you are sharing it to someone, you also have that flow, you also have the access, so you can monitor it. Yeah,
Okay.
so I believe that's the next part, deploying and sharing of desktop flows. So we are now looking at deploying and sharing of desktop flows. Obviously, when you build a flow with, after you have learned so much, you're going to build large flows. Yeah, small, medium, large type of flows. You need to know how to deploy them and how to even share them. So that is what I'm going to show. So there are three approaches given by Microsoft for sharing of flows once deployed. So first approach is the solution. So let's go to the solutions tab. Again, if you do not have that, you will go through more. So this is combining of deployment also. You deploy using the solutions as well as you share using solutions approach. So once you navigate to the solutions tab, you will see the list of previously created solutions. And what a solution is, if I have to say, then it is a package of all the Power Platform components. This could include your Power Apps app, your desktop app, desktop flow that you build, your cloud flows, any chatbots that you build, your Copilot Studio, any Dataverse that you have used. It's a package of everything inside one single solution. And one single solution is a zip file. When you export your solution, it will be in a form of a zip file. So you call it as a solution zip file. So let's take and see one solution, what's there in it. So this is the solution I had created previously of all the different desktop flows that I have. And here it will give you a count of the different components or the objects. I don't have any agents, no Power Apps, no cards, no cloud flows, desktop flows. There are 55. I don't know what it is showing it in a different language, but the point is, yeah, you will get a list of all the, even if any Dataverse tables you have used, that is a component of the Power Platform. So if any tables you have used, that will also show up here. So this is inside my solution. So if I have to add something new inside this solution, I go ahead and click on new. If I want to add an agent, a Power App, an automation, a cloud flow, a desktop flow, I need to use this option. If there is a totally existing solution that's all, I'm sorry, an existing desktop flow that has already been built, you can go to this approach, that is add existing menu, automation, and desktop flow. If it's existing, you go to the add existing. If it's totally new, you build it from here. So this is the inside part of the solution. Once you come back out, now first of all, how you create a solution. I'll show that from scratch. The one that I showed was already an existing solution already built. So obviously you will use this new solution button over here. Let me click on that. You give a name, new solution. You can, it shows you different publishers. It doesn't matter much. This will all be told by your Power Platform admin what publisher you choose, or you create a new publisher. Yeah, generally, yeah, these are other, you can, if you can, right now I'm doing a default publisher, but again you need to inquire it within your team and admin and ask which publisher should I use. The version, if it is for the first time, you can do 1.0. The more options part, the other part is not important, a small description. The package type is important, and I'll explain you. This is what you need to know. This is an unmanaged solution. Failed creating solution. New solution is already being used. Okay. New solution mod 9. Just as an example. Create. So it will bring me back to that screen where I had the list of, where, since it's a new solution, it will allow me to add new components and objects to this solution. So it will basically read all the components, Power Platform components that you have in your environment, so that you will be able to select it. That's something related to privileges that the admin should know. Okay, so there's nothing inside the solution, and I'm not building anything new. I'm going to add an existing desktop flow. So it will show all the desktop flows that you have. Let's do mod 9 that we just built. I select it, and yeah, I click on add. And yeah, it creates some dependencies of its own. You need not worry about it. So I go back to my list. So this is the new solution that we just built. So you have created a solution of all the Power Platform components you need. Now you will deploy it or share it with someone else, and that happens through the export solution button. So here you can click on next directly, and if there are any errors or dependencies, it will show up. So this is the important part that I want to mention. You will hear about these concepts: managed environment or unmanaged environment. So when is a managed option used? When the solution is moving to a test or other production environment, meaning your all the entire development is over and you are now deploying it to another environment, that is test or production. In that case, you select a managed environment. Yeah, a managed solution can't be changed unless it has customizable objects. So generally anything you cannot change inside a managed environment, and that's why it is used to navigate from one environment to another deployment. Whereas if you are moving your solution to another development environment or a source control like a Git or something like that, you use unmanaged. So let's say if you want to give it to your colleague within the dev environment only, you select unmanaged and then you export it. If you tick this, it will run a solution checker. It will take some time. Also, if you do an export now, it will take a long time. So I'm not exporting it. But before that, are you clear with the managed and unmanaged environment? Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens after I export is it will simply create a solution.zip file. It will ask me to download it. The browser will download a solution.zip file. Okay, with that name. And that zip file, you can put it to another environment. For example, you go here, change your environment. Let's say you have dev test prod. You go to that environment by choosing it from here. This time it will be an import and not an export for the recipient or for yourself. Let's say you are going from dev to test and you yourself have got access in test. In test, you will go and import. Can you see an import solution here? If you click on import solution, if you have changed your
Yeah.
environment, you will now browse this zip file and import it into your new environment. Whoever it is, your recipient or the new environment, they will import this file. Right now I do not have a zip file, so as soon as you import it, those whatever was included in that solution will show up here in that environment or to another person. So what we are doing here is we are doing both using solution approach. We are deploying it to another environment as well as sharing it to another person. So clear with the solutions approach? It is simply
Yeah.
creating a solution zip file out of the different components that you want to deploy or share it with another person. And that's the first approach. Now another approach is the share option approach. When you go to my flows, you will see a list of cloud flows here or a list of desktop flows built within this environment. So I'm inside desktop flows now. This is the bot that we just built. If I select this, I have one option here called as share, or I hit the ellipsis, I can do a share. As soon as I do that, a further screen comes up. Now this is myself, and as soon as I type people's name over here, they start coming up with this email ID. So to whomsoever you want to share, whoever are in this environment, again that is defined by an admin at a tenant level or environment level who should be having access to here. So their name you can put here, and after you do that, you need to click on them. You can add multiple users just like the way I added for one user. You will have two options further to give access to that person. Either you can give them user access, which means they can run and see your flow but not change it, or you can make them the co-owner. They can edit it, delete it, see run history, or add or delete other things. And finally click on save. Clear with this before I'll hit cancel? Okay.
Yes.
So that was the sharing approach. Now, what is the third approach? That is the text file approach. The first two approaches required cloud flows. The third approach requires only desktop flows. the desktop editor. So I go into the desktop editor, I hit Control A, or I can even go from the edit and do a select all, and then I do a copy. I open a text file, that is a notepad file, and paste into it. So whatever is generated, it's the Robin programming language of RPA, which PAD uses. You need not worry about it. You simply need to save this file with the name as main. So this flow is the main flow. Now I, I go to a different subflow, that is the send email subflow that I had. Let's enable this so that we have something in it. Again, I do a Control A, Control C, and this time I will have a new notepad file and paste it over here. Only one action is there. I name this as send email. Why am I naming it that way? So that whenever I save this text file and pass it on to others, they will understand that this is a subflow, this is the main flow, the earlier one. Likewise, you will have to do for all the subflows, including the main flow, and simply email this to the recipient. Clear with this approach? I'll show you the importing of it also. Okay. This so when the recipient gets this file, he or she will do a Control C, and I'll show it into the main itself, or do you want me to show it in a new flow? So you open a new flow, it will look like this. Obviously, it will be a main flow, and I simply click here inside and I can do a paste. It will generate exactly those actions that I had copied. So the example that I showed was I took the main flow in a subflow, but you need to put it in a main flow, and send email should go inside a send email, logging should go inside the logging subflow, and so forth. Only then wherever you're calling a subflow, let's say you're using run a subflow action, only the original developer might have used the same names, logging. Only then, if you use logging for the recipient, only then this will work, otherwise it will throw an error. Clear with this part? The naming should be same. That's why you need to create, yeah, that's
Yes.
why you need to create the text file with the same name. Now we go to the last slide. Now this is about attended automation. We'll see the different supportable features in attended automation. We'll make use of the same. So attended automation means what? As we have already seen, a human or someone attends to the bot. So for that, you need to have certain prompts to the user, right? So what does PAD give us for this is what we are going to see. It gives us a variety of message boxes. Input dialog box. The message display messages we have already seen. It's simply a message box. The display input dialog box. What I'll do is I'll show you all dialog boxes, run it one after the other. I'll give it a title. This is the input dialog. And what it does is it will ask for an input. Please enter name. You can give a default value. You can give it as a password text box also, as a multi-line text box also, or keep this box at the top. User input is where the whatever user input the user will enter, it will be handled, captured into the user input variable, and whatever button was pressed by the user OK cancel will be captured here. I will show it to you when I run it. Now this is the first type of dialog box, input dialog. Now likewise I take a select date dialog box. I'll write the name as select date so that you will know when I run it. So I'll give a prompt like please select dates. Why dates? Because this also has an option for two dates. I will show you two dates to make it easier, either date only or date time. Let's take date and time. Okay, rest all the options are same. I'll save it. Now this is the list dialog box. Please select an option. I can give a list here. Let's say I'll put the days in this way, and yeah, some options here. Limit to this list means if I turn on this toggle, the user can select only these three options. If I turn off this option, user can write their own option simply like a combo box. A combo box means a editable text box as well as a drop down list box. So will you allow the empty selection? Is it okay if the user does not select anything? You can handle it from here. Allow multiple selection. User can select two multiple selections also. That's what I'm going to show when I run. The select file dialog box, as the name says, it's the dialog box to select a file. Dialog title is file dialog box. Initial folder is optional if you want to have an initial folder from where the dialog box should open. Yeah. And file filter, let's say star.pdf. Same thing. If I hover the mouse, it will show star.txt, star.exe. You can separate it using semicolon. You can also give document question mark .doc, so that only that type of filters the user can select, and only that type of files will be visible to the user in the file dialog box. Okay. Select multiple files also. These are worth exploring with different inputs. Now dialog description is folder dialog. Save. I'll keep the last one to show it to you later. Now I'm going to run this. Watch the output variables also. Button pressed, all these. User input, selected date, selected item. So the first one is the title I had given is the input dialog box. This is how an input dialog box looks. We had given a prompt as please enter name. Let's give a name and hit enter. It will go to the second one. Second one is the select date type of dialog box. We had given two ranges and we had selected date and time. Yeah, it opens up a calendar. Let's give 13 and 14. Okay. This is a list type of dialog box now. Line number 3. Please select an option, and we had given 3 options. Next is the select file dialog box. It opens up a file dialog box, and since we did not give any star dot or anything, you can select anything and go ahead. Right now I'll click cancel. You can select a file, and now this is the folder dialog box. You can select a folder and move ahead. I'll give cancel. Now some variables should be populated. The select date variable, date time, yeah, even user input John, selected item Sunday, all these are populated based on the input the user gave. Now clear with these dialog boxes, how you can make use of them for attended automation. You can take a input
Yes.
from the user and you can then use that variable down the flow and do whatever you want to do as per the flow you are building. The innovativeness, the creativity builds on you, depends on you. Now the last one is the custom form. Let's show it to you in a form of a new subflow. Custom form. This is what it shows. It asks you to go to a custom form designer where you will be able to design a custom form. Now, earlier I showed you different types of input boxes. I used a dialog box called as please enter name and I wrote John. What if I want to ask multiple things to the user? Please enter name, please enter age, please enter city, please select your date of birth. Will I be able to do using those dialog boxes that I showed? No, it will flash in front of the user multiple times. The user might get frustrated. Instead of that, you could use a custom form where you can ask multiple inputs at the same time, and that is what we are going to see. So text input, as soon as I drag it, it shows a preview at the bottom. If I click on text input, I give an ID. So txt, let's say I want to extract the name, and the label is full name. As soon as I write it, I see a preview here for the label. Default value, if you want to give it a multi-line, explore this style. I have explored this. It gives you a different uh, options like telephone, URL, email. Right now we'll take it a plain text. Spacing, separator, they are all cosmetic changes. Height, validation is the important part. If I give required, it brings a red symbol over here, asterisk sign, making it as a compulsory field, a mandatory field. If the user does not enters, we give them a message, please enter the name. Yeah, and you can give regular expression here to give a pattern. What type of name? Like for example, first name space last name, first name or last name initial. You can give a regular expression. I'll show you that too. Then after name, let's do a number input. So let's give the ID as txt age. The IDs are going to be important. I'm giving it as per naming convention. It's a text box. It's actually a number input for an age. So let's do one thing. Let's give num age. Label is age. Any default values do you want to give? Again, if a validation is required, let's do please enter a valid age. Now I have not given any validation, but it's a number input. Let's see if it treats as a number and shows this message if someone tries to enter a text over here. Two things we have added. Let's take a submit button now. Let's do one thing. We had a validation also to check using regular expression. I'll take a text input again, and this time let's make it a email. So required pattern. I'll take help from Copilot to give me a regular expression for an email address. Okay. We have the Copilot, our AI friend, our AI companion. Give me a regular expression for an email address. It's a long one. I don't want such a complicated one. I further prompted, give me a simple one. Yeah, this is a smaller one. So what does this does is at the rate symbol is there. So some text at the rate some text dot com or something like that. So we are not focusing more on how to write a proper regular expression, but we are trying to validate a email address by putting a regular expression in the pattern box. Click inside pattern box and paste it over here. Should be good enough. Now submit has the another use of submit is if I give it as unchecked, ignore provided inputs, it will behave like a cancel button. So the first one was okay. First one was okay. I ignored the inputs, but the second one I wrote a cancel as the title and now I will tick the ignored inputs. Now our form is built, should be good to go. And we are ready to run it from here. The look and feel would be a small form. You can even have a background image for your form. I'll show you where. There is our form with the three fields. So the first name is mandatory as shown over a star mark. Okay, we didn't write email as the label here. That's why it's not showing. So the star mark is mandatory. I directly go ahead and click OK. It doesn't allow me. It says please enter the name because we had given it in the validation. So I put John. Age, perhaps we took it as a number field. Let's try to put it as a text and hit on OK. Did you see? It gave me please enter a valid age. And the third one was email. So I just type in ABC and try to hit OK. Did it accept? No, I think we did not give an error message. So let's fix these two things. This is a good way to know what we are lacking here in the properties. So txt email, I did not give an error message. Please enter a valid email. That should be it. And for the email, we did not give a label also. Now both of them should appear. And I run the flow, the subflow. Yeah, our email part is fixed. We saw the mandatory option, so I'll put it. Age also we saw. Email, as I was typing ABC, this time it is giving me a message, please enter a valid email. I put the at the rate sign. If I click OK, still it is giving me an at the rate symbol, an error message, because our regular expression says something at something .com. I won't put the .com and still click on OK. It's not allowing me. This time I put a .com. Obviously the regular expression, I believe I need to see if .co.in it allows or not, but we are not focusing on regular expression. This time I'll click OK because it sounds matching to the regular expression, and the output variable is custom form data, and the button press 7. Let's go to custom form data. This is the output variable generated in a form of a custom object. Now we know what to do with it. Now, do you remember I gave the ID as a meaningful format as txt full name? I can use this form data. I can access the full name of John, the age, the email, and so forth. Clear with this submission of data from a form? Great.
Yes.
This time,
Yes.
let me show you one thing that I mentioned earlier about the form. I go to the designer. If I click on num age, it will show me all num age related properties. But if I click outside, it will show me the custom form related properties. So this is where you can give the title, the layout of the form, the height, width. Yeah, you can explore this vertical alignment. I maximize it. So any form related properties, you click here outside and it will ask you to fill those properties. Now there are different controls over here. Image, a text block, a URL type of number, time, toggle means a checkbox, a list box, a file input dialog box. Now I'll cancel this and even cancel this. And I wanted to show you the behavior of the cancel button, because that also is the one that we took. We took two command buttons. One was for accepting the inputs. Second was for, let's say I give some input. I give the age, the email, and this time instead of OK, I press on cancel. Did you see? Nothing got added into the custom objects. This is the behavior of the cancel button and the OK button. Clear with this? Now, when I opened the form
Yes.
designer, I showed you several several what do you call fields or controls like text boxes, labels, drop downs, check boxes. So using that, I have built this form. What I have done is I have taken every single control that was available on the left hand side and I have built this particular form. This one, the name text box, an age, date, time, a checkbox, a drop down, a file picker. There is something called a separator. This is the separator. Then, yeah, I don't remember what this is called. I need to check the list. But again, an OK button. If you are able to see, this is the OK button, the cancel button, and there is the link URL button. If I click on more help, it will open an URL, a web page. This is what I did using that, and I want you to explore the same. But now you can do this in the form of an exercise also. What will be your exercise? You can create a custom form to accept all the Contoso invoice details to submit the inputs, meaning the date, the account, the contact, the amount, and status. If you remember, so far you were accepting these details from an Excel file. But this time what you do is build a form, a custom form where you will accept all these fields to the user, make it mandatory, add regular expressions such that amount field will be numeric, add contact email such the way I showed you how to add the regular expressions for the email address. Do that. Status should be invoice, uninvoiced, and paid in a form of a drop down. Date should be date. Do all that and all validations and proper controls, and when you click on OK button, it should go ahead and submit the data onto the Contoso application. Clear with this? Great. All right,
Yes, sir.
great. We should be over with module 9 now. Yeah? Questions about module 9, previous modules?
No, no questions. It's
Great.
a really good
Yes,
feature,
yes,
the form.
yes. Okay.